Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Randall. This is the McClures. We react, review, make fun, and laugh at stuff over here. We're going to be checking out Michael Knowles today. Breaks down election night results. See what he thinks about the red trickle. I don't know if so much it was a red trickle. It definitely wasn't a red wave, that's for sure. But let's see what Michael Knowles thinks about it. Channel sponsored by McClures.store. If you'd like to help me out and other Americans buy quality American products. If you want to pick something up for Christmas, I got some custom stuff you can make on the website there. But let's get into this and see what Michael Knowles is talking about.
So there was good news last night. There was. I don't want to be one of these conservatives who is just constantly catastrophizing everything and saying that the sky is falling down. There was good news. J.D. Vance beats Tim Ryan in Ohio.
That was big.
Important Senate seat. This race had been kind of close. J.D. Vance is a new right kind of.
What doesn't make sense, though, before we even get into all this, he's probably going to talk about it as well, as Oz. I understand that Trump's friends with him and he's super loyal and all that. And pardon me, I don't remember the black lady's name that was running against him in the primary, but she was a way better candidate, way smarter, way better ideas. And why we didn't put her doesn't make any sense at all. She could have beat the lump. No problem. And for some reason, Oz couldn't beat the lump. I mean... Alright guys, let's get into it.
Of candidate. He's a candidate who's running not just on the old, tired, tax cuts and ignore the culture kind of issues, but J.D. Vance is running on explicitly a pro-family policy. He's running on an anti-immigration platform, not just anti-legal immigration, but restricting all immigration. So he's running a very conservative, kind of Trumpy, kind of populist, kind of nationalist, kind of, I don't know, whatever ist you want to call it, not the old rhino establishment kind of campaign.
I don't know if you want to say whatever ist. The left will add on a bunch of ist that you don't want, bro.
And that was a big win because Tim Ryan, the Democrat, had positioned himself as a working man's Democrat. I'm not one of these latte-sipping liberals. I'm a blue-collar kind of Democrat. And it was completely disingenuous coming from Tim Ryan, but the pitch seemed to be kind of working on the campaign trail. Okay, J.D. wins in Ohio. They say as goes Ohio, so goes the nation. So that was good stuff. Bad news we just got out of Michigan. Whitmer, this awful leftist governor.
That is crazy right there. The fact that they picked her, didn't she kill like more old people than anybody during her crazy tyrannical lockdowns? Did everybody forget? Or they just like to be ruled? I think that's what it is. People are so weak and pathetic. They don't want to do things for themselves. They just want to be handled.
In Michigan, she beat Tudor Dixon, who had made a real play for Michigan. Seemed like a decent Republican candidate, but just could not go the distance. So Democrats win there. Kathy Hochul in New York beats Lee Zeldin, the Republican. I don't want to beat up on Lee Zeldin too much. Lee Zeldin ran a New York Republican kind of campaign. He's not some rock-ribbed right-wing conservative, but he put up the most credible campaign, the most credible threat
to Democrat
power in New York,
which is crazy,
since George Pataki. It was a really impressive campaign. He got pretty close. He lost in the end. Kathy Hochul wins. The Democrats win. Too bad. The big race that people are looking at is Herschel Walker versus Raphael Warnock. Right now, that is in a complete dead heat. Neither candidate, as of some minutes before this show began today, neither candidate had over 50%, which means that race is likely headed to a runoff. It's a little frustrating, too, because the Libertarian candidate there did act as a spoiler, and even just the 1 to 2% that the Libertarian candidate got would be enough to have put Herschel Walker over the line. But Herschel Walker had problems as a candidate, so could be headed to a runoff. If that race goes to a runoff, probably doesn't bode very well for Herschel Walker, because Herschel Walker was riding, I think he hoped, national political headwinds for the Republicans and was riding on Governor Kemp's coattails. Governor Brian Kemp won, so that's an important race. But for Herschel, if it's just him, just versus Warnock, knowing also that Democrats are much better at runoff-type races, that's not great news. Now, I mentioned Brian Kemp. This was fabulous.
Why are they better at runoff-type races? That was a bad pause. Sorry about that, Michael. Why are they better at runoff races, though? They seem to be better at, like, the political game, so to speak. Why aren't we playing the game? Like, I don't even know if a Republican ran for some stuff in my district. You know, they don't even put people up against Democrats. Like, oh, I'll probably never win. And?
News. So Brian Kemp absolutely destroys the governor pretender in exile, Stacey Abrams, the president of the universe, according to Star Trek. Stacey Abrams has never really conceded her gubernatorial loss in 2018, and she just got completely destroyed with facts and logic and votes last night. It was so bad that she had to concede. This is a woman who a lot of us thought maybe she just won't concede. She still hasn't conceded her race from 4 years ago. Well, she had to concede this time. It was just so bad. He beat her 53.5% to 45.8%. So you can't really claim voter fraud in that kind of a race, especially when the Democrat loses, and the Democrats are the ones who are known for their shenanigans. So she lost, and she's conceded. And then another totally satisfying race. This was so delicious. This was so delectable. Beto O'Rourke just got ETFO'd. I mean, just got absolutely blown out of the water.
He did get destroyed.
The race was 55.6% to 43.1%.
I mean, he's saying he got destroyed, but we have a problem in this country because 43% of people that live in Texas thought that Beto should run Texas. I mean, that's a problem. That's a problem, bro.
Devastating. Republicans are just being absolutely merciless in their mockery of him, which we will get to a little bit later on in the show. But really, really good news there. And then there were just some losses. And one of the most painful losses for a lot of people, I think, is the Pennsylvania Senate race. Dr. Oz loses to John Fetterman. Here's Fetterman's victory speech.
Yeah,
oh, the lump speaks.
I'm not really sure what to say right now. My goodness.
Yeah, it's because it's a day of the week. And you're not ever sure what to say.
I am...
Look at the ears on this mug, bro. Did the lump go to his ears? What happened? Like, it's crazy.
I'm so humbled. Thank you so much, really. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
John Fetterman, I am not really sure what to say right now.
Wow.
Truer words have never been spoken by a victorious Senate candidate. Now, this one did not surprise me. This surprised a lot of Republicans. Didn't surprise me. I was predicting Fetterman would win going into the election. That's because... Well, one, it's because Philadelphia is known for some shenanigans, especially in close races. But even more than that, because Dr. Oz was a terrible candidate, and I've made no bones about that fact. I think he's just awful. I think he's a total loser, and so I'm not surprised that he lost.
Correct. That's 100% correct right there. 1,000%.
And it was unfortunate that he was the nominee, and then he lost to a man who had an absolutely horrible record, no professional accomplishments in his life, a radical vision for the country, and brain damage such that he couldn't even really campaign. Nevertheless, he won, and that's a real gut punch for Republicans. Now, again, I don't think the fact that Republicans lost to a guy with brain damage, as is the headline right now, I don't think that's actually the big issue here. Okay? Because if it were me, if I were a Pennsylvania voter,
no, the issue is putting people like Oz into run.
Were reversed, and it was the Republican who had some health problem, and he wasn't really functioning, he wasn't on the campaign trail, versus some articulate Democrat. I would still vote for the Republican. I don't really care. I want the Senate majority. I want a guy who's going to reliably vote for the right stuff. And so I'm not really surprised by all that. The health issue, it doesn't bug me nearly as much as his just insane policy agenda. Now, I mentioned this question of fraud and irregularities and shenanigans and all of that. I don't think Republicans can blame these losses on voter fraud, because we did get most of the results last night relatively quickly. Now, you might still say there's a big problem with widespread mail-in voting. I do think that's a problem. I do think that's open to abuse. I do think there's a problem with ballot harvesting. I do think there's a problem with early voting. I think all of these things are absolutely awful and have no place in a stable, sacred democracy that we are supposed to be. And I do think it opens up the possibility of fraud.
We aren't a democracy.
That's not my crazy conspiratorial.
I hate that people keep saying this over and over. It's just annoying. It's super annoying. This is what they do, though. This is what they do with language. They just change it. We're not a democracy. Stop saying it.
View. That's the view of Barack Obama. That's the view of basically everybody with two brain cells to rub together. Yeah, that's all a problem. But we did get most of the results last night. And so there are other problems. There are other political problems. Why did the Republicans not do nearly as well as we were supposed to? We'll get into that. The rest of the show continues now. It is Woke Wednesday. We've got an ad from Fetterman that my producer...
All right, guys, so that was Michael Knowles breaking down his election night results. I thought he was actually going to get into other stuff that we possibly didn't know. I mean, he went over the 5 races that have been talked about the most. Okay, whatever. It is what it is. Definitely not a red wave. They're pulling some shenanigans in Arizona for sure. Carrie Lake has this in the bag. She's probably going to win by hundreds of thousands of votes. And they're still pretending they don't know this at this point. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Give her the win. They're trying to drag it out so they can wait till some other event happens. They can talk about more and push it under the rug that they're... She was like their poster candidate for Trumpism, and they needed to take that down, and she is going to win by a big margin, I believe. All right, guys, appreciate you stopping by the channel. McClure's.store. You can pick up Christmas merch, Santa hats, and stockings. You can customize them yourself. Or pick up a hog one or a Creek Squad one. I made some of those just because I thought it was funny. But appreciate you guys stopping by. Take care. Bye-bye.